Let's look at my top 5 vintage bargain synthesizers. These are synths you can get for literally under $150 if you look hard enough. And I've been looking at gear and testing gear for well over a year, and have quite a few to share. First is this honorable mention, which is the Casio CZ series, the Casio CZ1000, 2000. This is the 2000S. Give you the opportunity to learn some basic synthesis. The presets aren't really that great, but you can layer two tones into a patch. You have a ring modulator. You do have noise, you have dedicated chorus, so there's some level of onboard effects. I think this is a great kind of starter synth, and for the time it was kind of that crossover between the the toy synth and the professional. I like it. I think it's a lot of fun and definitely has 80s charm. So you're getting a sense for what kind of sounds this can put out. It's worth mentioning, it's not really a radical synth, and for the money, it's not as good as some of these other ones. So coming in at number 5 is the Kawai K1. This is a synth from 1988, which is a PCM synth. It has kind of like 8-bit, it's all 8-bit lo-fi sounds. So I'm not sure anyone today is going to say, hey, this really sounds beautiful, but I like the noise it puts out. I like the fact that it is kind of lo-fi and a little bit like noisy and almost annoying to the ear at times, but you can get some really good screeching sounds, and by layering the 4 tones that can make a patch, you can do some pretty good synthesis, and editing patches is very easy. And people are totally going to say this is not as good as the Kawai K4 or other synths of the era. Yes, that's true, but you're also talking about the bargain range here. These are synths I've seen this one go for like $50 on a website here in Germany. But for the money, I think it does a lot, and the build quality is pretty good. Every one of these I've run across has been in good condition and fully functional. So with that, I do think that this is a top pick if you're gonna buy a vintage synth or buy your first old synth. So definitely check it out. Here, the more you play, the more you get. There is a lot of fun you can have by layering, and the envelopes that this synth offers, I think, really pretty good. So moving on to our next item is going to be synth number 4, and this is the Ensoniq SQ1. Looking at the SQ1 Plus here, but this is a synth that's a little bit later, from the 90s. Again, a bit of a throwback, but we're looking at vintage bargain synths here. This is actually a full workstation, so there is a synthesizer and a sequencer built into this unit. I don't really recommend anybody use onboard workstations these days, but the fact that it has all that kit built into it is pretty good. What I think is really exciting about this synthesizer is the acoustic tones actually sound relatively decent, but you can do a lot with the synthesizer as well. It's super easy to function through the workflow. Everything is kind of laid out with a series of buttons at the top where you can select those and you can adjust values. And overall, you have 3 layers to work with in creating a patch. But the net effect is that this is easy to work with. The sounds are a little bit more high quality than what we saw on the Kawai, but still a very fun, easy to use synthesizer, and another one that would be great for your collection or to kind of give you an entry vehicle into the world of synthesis. So the ability to play with the layers, I think, gives you so much opportunity to make some rich sounds. I mean, this is good for building out some pads. I think maybe the leads, you might probably today use something that's a little bit more analog to get the cutting lead that you're looking for. But there's still like a lot to learn and a lot to love about this Ensoniq synthesizer. It's a bit of a weirdo, but I still recommend it. Speaking of weirdos, let's look at number 3, the Yamaha CS1X. It really rolls off the tongue. This is a mid-90s synth, really, kind of like the predecessor to the virtual analog world that we got into in the late 90s, and I guess probably haven't really left. I think of this as a really cool kind of like DJ tool. Like everything is built around the arpeggiator and the real-time controls, which are just a relatively good filter. I think this has a lot of kind of cool factor to it. Really easy to work with the knob and the menu there, and the rubber buttons there to make adjustments. It also does have a really awesome general MIDI sound set, which was kind of table stakes for the day in the mid-90s. But cool little vintage thing. Really kind of showed the future of what synthesizers would become over the next 10 to 20 years. I think this one is an unsung hero of synthesizers and really quite accessible. If you don't find this one fun to play with, at least for a little bit, like I probably don't want to know you. I think this is really like super fun. Like there's some cheese factor to it. This is like 30 years old now. It's not exactly built with the highest quality chips and whatnot. But I really do think this is a load of fun, and for somebody who is looking to kind of build out a collection, this is definitely a must-have. I will say that the build quality on this is kind of crap. The blue plastic housing on mine broke during shipment, which is really annoying. So that is a detractor, but nonetheless, I do think that Yamaha knew how to lay in a key bed, so playing this is fun. The controls are pretty user friendly, so overall, I would definitely recommend it. We're getting late in the game here, so let's look at number 2. This is the Roland D5. This one is probably not so feature-rich as some of the other synths that we looked at today, but I really do love Roland's LA synthesis, and I think that the D5 is probably the most, today, the most useful version of it, in that it includes the arpeggiator and some other like chase and harmony effects that are really kind of good. The overall sounds are mid 80s. This is like 1987, I believe. So you're getting that, but the keys feel great. I think the D series overall, like you're not gonna find them much more expensive. Maybe the D50, of course, because it's a kind of a flagship and a legend. But if you're looking at like the D10, the D20, they kind of all fit into this category. The D10 has rhythm attached to it, which is nice. That the beats are PCM samples, and they sound actually really cool if you like a bit of a retro sound. But this one has a nice arpeggiator that is not found on the D10 or the D20, and I find that because I am not a great musician, having that feature is really nice to just add a little bit more color to my sound. I would love it if the onboard effects were anything meaningful here, but the fact that you can use the presets, because they do have a great, kind of retro feel, and you can affect them, makes for a great synthesizer, and another one that is small, portable, and you can actually gig with it today because it's built really well. So now we're getting to number one. It's the Corg O1. The Corg O1 is a early 90s synth. It is built beautifully. It's like, Steve Jobs designed it as far as synths go for the time. Really felt elegant. Keybed is wonderful. The sounds are great. And why is this number one? It is so cheap and was such an amazing flagship synthesizer when it came out that I couldn't not rate it in this place today. Yes, the sounds are dated. You're gonna get some good acoustic pianos. I really like the 90s piano sound that it produces. But also it is great for pads and filling out tracks. I think the ability to do some of the synthesis on the fly with the buttons under the display, and one value button one value slider is pretty good, and the huge display makes it just so much fun. It gives everything a visual feel. Definitely a harbinger of what was to come from Korg right up till today. So I think this synthesizer, its architecture, its kind of iconic status, make it almost like a must-have for your collection. I have two of them, and really do love every moment I get to play on this device. So what do you think? These are my rankings. I think in a different day, I might put these in a slightly different order. I don't think there's many other options that fit into this price point that you're going to get, where you're going to get real usable synthesizers. But I'd love to hear your comments. I would love to hear if there are overlooked items that I missed that fit into this category, because I will seek them out and explore and maybe make a 2025 version of my 5 top bargain synths. So thank you for watching. I do hope it was entertaining. Like and subscribe for more content. Thank you.